In today's video, I'm going to show you how I built this 240 liters Angelfish Aquarium, which materials I have used, and break down the cost of this build. In addition, I've been challenged by my client to make it high-end and at the same time to stay under a tight budget. You might be wondering where I get my inspiration from. So, while most of the times it's from scenes I've seen in nature or from the available hardscape. But this time around, it was completely different. The client had a very specific idea and wanted me to replicate a design from my friend and YouTube buddy, MD Fish Tanks. After watching the video, I understood what my client liked about the design from MD. A combination of bright cosmetic sand in front of an island composition made from natural pebbles and driftwood, combined with lush and colorful plants in the back. Now to the first and probably the most difficult challenge. I had to find the right hardscape materials. The type of pebbles was something I haven't seen before. I drove to several shops with no luck. But then I remembered a landscape supply center and decided to try my luck. After having a bad luck at a handful other locations, I was finally relieved when I saw a big pile of these natural-looking pebbles. I handpicked and selected off these pebbles, making sure to get various different sizes. The rocks were super dirty, but wait until you see them washed and submerged. And the best part, I only paid 10 euros as they are usually sold in truckloads. Upon arrival at client's place, I was happy to see the aquarium and the stand have arrived in good condition. The canvas I will be working with is the Aqua-L Ultrascape 90. For only 599 euros you'll get a cabinet and a decent opti-wide tank. Don't expect anything fancy, the glass and silicone actually look good. The kit comes with a light, which is probably fine to keep some fish and simple plants. But for some serious aquascaping, I decided to go the extra mile and upgraded to the Aquascape Hyperspot FM. At 539 euros, the light costs almost as much as the aquarium and the cabinet together. But in my opinion, it is one of the most important elements for a successful planet aquarium and is worth investing in. Keep watching to find out why I love this light. I always start by spreading the hardscape on the floor to get a bird's eye view. One branch in particular caught my attention as it was burned. I decided not to use it in order to maintain a uniform look among all branches. As requested by the client, I started assembling the branches inside the aquarium to shape an island composition. This process is probably best described as puzzling, where I try out different options to see which ones look the best. In a classic Ryoboku style, there is no right or wrong, so one can simply throw a bunch of branches together as long as it looks natural and interesting. Once I was happy with the overall look, I decided to secure the branches with zip ties. This is a pro tip when working with driftwood. Use zip ties to quickly secure branches. Always use more zip ties than you think is necessary. This will allow to move the whole structure and even flip it around. I really liked how the dynamic changed and decided to keep it this way. Now that I had all the branches in place, it was time to brush off soft sections with a wire brush. I tried working on a balcony, but the sun was too hot. I moved into the backyard to continue working in the shade of a large tree. Brushing off soft parts from the driftwood will reduce the amount of organic waste after filling the tank with water, and it shows more detail in the branches, making it look more interesting and aged. Unfortunately, I had to take the structure apart when cleaning the branches with a wire brush. But thanks to a photo on my phone, I quickly reassembled the structure inside the aquarium and secured everything again with zip ties. The total cost for all branches was 150 euros. Next, I attached the frost film to the back of the aquarium. I cut it to the length of the aquarium, sprayed the back with soapy water and attached the film. Now it can glide and align at the top and one side, so you don't have to trim them. Next, Use a plastic card to remove water bubbles from underneath the film. Therefore, start in the middle and work your way to the outside. Another pro tip, I highly recommend to measure the exact size of the back wall of the aquarium and cut the film size prior attaching it. Yes, you can cut off excess easily with a razor blade, but sometimes the film detaches and the cut goes in the wrong direction. I had to fix this by using a ruler and trimmed a little extra for a flush edge. To mount the light, I measured the distance between the mounting holes in the light and drilled the holes in the ceiling. After suspending the light, I used an app on my phone to level the light. In my opinion, the Hyperspot is currently one of the best LEDs on the market. I always go for the contrast settings. The colors are juicy and natural at the same time, no tweaking required. It just looks right when you first turn it on. And what I like most about it is the mirror finish at the bottom. It allows a unique view inside the aquarium, and the way the spots are located inside individual reflectors, it creates strong focused light beams, hence the name Hyperspot, which creates close to no glare at all. Alone this is the main selling point if you have an open-top aquarium. Now with the tank in its final position and the light on, it is time to proceed with the build. Yes, I used zip ties excessively and now is the time to replace them by gluing the branches together. For this, I'm using my favorite cyanoacrylate superglue and cotton pad technique. Alternatively, you can use toilet paper or cigarette filters. Simply wedge a tiny amount of bonding material in between two branches and soak it in liquid superglue. After a quick reaction, the used material hardens, creating a very strong connection between both parts. Sometimes you can see smoke, which is caused by the exothermic reaction of cyanoacrylate and the bonding material. Afterwards, you can cover the connection spots with soil dust and superglue. Unnecessary zip ties are removed and only those at the bottom are kept, as they will be covered by plants anyway. Finally, we can get to use our previously collected rocks. I strategically positioned some rocks to balance out the composition. In their dry state, they don't show their true color. Just wait until you see them wet. Next up is the substrate. I added 2 9-liter bags of tropical soil in the rear corner and used my aquarium brush to flatten it out. 70 euros. And in case it wasn't obvious, by flipping the wood, I changed the layout shape from island to a triangular composition. The way the aquarium is positioned in a corner, an island style, just wouldn't work, as it requires open space in both directions. The triangle composition, however, matches the location of the aquarium in the corner and provides open space with the layout to match the space around the aquarium. To finish the substrate, I added cosmetic sand in the foreground and also covered the soil under a thin layer. This, by the way, is a pro tip I learned from Dave Chow.
Putting some sand on the surface, and then I still planted the foreground plants. They will not swell at all. So I believe that is the fertilizer coming out not so in a large amount, because the sand surface have been as a barrier.
Soil covered under cosmetic sand will leach less ammonia into the water and thus not only cause less trouble in the early phase, but also remain more of its nutrition values for the plants to feed from in the long run. In my case, there is a third benefit. It will help prevent mixing of substrates, so my client hopefully won't have to siphon soil grains from the cosmetic sand foreground. 10 kg bag of cosmetic sand, 20 euros. I followed by adding more rocks, further balancing the composition and securing the substrate slope. In a simple layout like this, it is really hard to go wrong when positioning the rocks. I tried to create additional parallel lines leading the eye, as well as to alternate large rocks pointing upwards with rocks that I laid flat on the ground. In my opinion, this creates a sense of movement. Finally, I sprinkled small gravels all over the place. It is important not to overdo this part, as you want to keep enough cosmetic sand visible. I think the hardscape turned out beautiful. The center piece of wood looks powerful yet elegant, and the way it fades into smaller branches towards the rear corner creates a nice sense of depth, making the layout look bigger than it actually is. As previously mentioned, the open space on the left allows for a unique and welcoming view when entering the room. Now comes the part I enjoy the least, preparing the plants. For this, I sat down with a client and we quickly removed the rock wool from the plants. To remove the rock wool, you can use sharp tweezers or a kitchen fork. Simply try out what works best for you. Follow the rough cleaning by washing off the remaining rock wool with water. It is essential to remove as much rock wool as possible. In total, we have used approximately 40 plants, that's 250 euros. I started planting with the biggest plants in the rear corner first. Hygrophila siamensis 53B, followed by Ludwigia glandulosa. When planting mixed stems in the bag, I follow a pro tip I learned from Amano. Always try to combine plants that are different in shape and color. This will give the best contrast. Following this rule, I planted Ludwigia palustis green next and Rotala blood red thereafter, alternating both shape and color. As I prefer to plant into dry soil, it is necessary to spray plants that already have been planted. I transitioned with Myriophyllum matogrossense into the midground and continued with the second patch of Rotala blood red in front of the Hygrophila siamensis 53B. The remaining middle ground areas I planted with Helantium quadricostatus and transitioned into Eleucharis posilla mini towards the foreground. Mixing contrasting carpeting plants creates a wild and natural look. It isn't necessary to plant these plants very dense, as they reproduce through runners and will propagate over time by themselves. When spraying small plants, you can see the amazing color of the rocks. The final step is to glue the epiphyte plants. For this, I'm using the Arca Plantscaper glue. It is a special, thick, gel-type cyanoacrylate superglue. I often hear people saying that one doesn't need to go for the premium brand and one can buy cheap superglue in the hardware store. Well, good luck finding a better deal. The 50 ml bottles from Arca have a very competitive price. Plus, the bottles are superior to metal tubes as they suck in excess glue when you stop squeezing the bottle. To attach plants with superglue, simply apply a small quantity to the roots and press them against wood or rocks and hold for 5 to 10 seconds. For this and any kind of superglue action, I highly recommend to use protective gloves. Of course, one doesn't always have to use superglue. Sometimes, when there is the perfect gap, you can simply wedge the plant in it. However, for my part, and especially with customer projects, I prefer to secure things knowing that nothing will ever float up. Look how easy it was to cover the zip ties with Bulbitis hoydelotti. While planting the Anubias coin leaf, I discovered a flower. These little beauties will look like peace lilies when they open up. The Nymphea lotus is best added close to the end, as it's a true underwater plant which doesn't like being exposed to air and dries quickly. Finally, I filled various little gaps with Anubias petite. For the extra touch of untamed wilderness, I added Hygrophila pinnatifida on top of some rocks. This stem plant originates from fast-flowing rivers in India and has adapted to its environment by forming adhesive roots. When the main stem is trimmed, it will produce side shoots crawling over the hardscape and attaching itself to it. If you want to see this effect in full scale, check out this video, link in the description. The last plant was Bucephalandra kedagang. This rather new epiphyte from Borneo looks like a result of Anubias and Cryptocorini having a baby. Okay guys, jokes aside. Bucephalandras are not new anymore, and good news, you can buy them sustainably produced from tissue culture. Please stay away from plants that are sold bare-rooted in clumps. These are likely wild collected, and aside of a high chance of melting, it is unethical as those who collect them oftentimes destroy entire habitats. While the tank has slowly started filling with water, I quickly assembled the Arca My Aqua CO2 system. In case you haven't seen this before, they are citric acid and baking soda chemical reaction-based CO2 generators. After mixing the dry components and adding the required amount of water, the stainless steel cylinder is sealed and a chemical reaction begins inside. At this point, it is like a regular pressurized system that can be controlled through a solenoid and a needle valve to adjust the right amount of bubbles per second. The 3.7 liter version will last 2 to 3 months and can be refilled by yourself at home. 169 euros for the starter kit. I enhanced the kit with a high-quality stainless steel CO2 diffuser from Arca, 24.90 euros. With the water further filling in, it is time to check if I accomplished the challenges by the client. First, there was the budget. I had to stay under 2,000 euros for a high-end 90 cm aquascape with no compromises. The total cost for the materials used was 2,090 euros and 90 cents, so it's slightly over budget, but still very close. Does it count as accomplished? You decide. And second, the client wanted a layout that looks similar to the one made by MD Fish Tanks. I think this one definitely has been achieved. Everyone, please tag MD in the comments so we can get a response from him. Also, how about aquascaping reaction videos? Maybe something for the next live stream? Thanks everyone for watching, and I see you next time.